Hello, I'm Peter Stewart. Thank you so much indeed for watching our very first show of VoiceWorks. I'm here with Suze Cooper, and this is our regular evening hookup. I was going to say date, but that sounded wrong. And you know what? Hookup sounds just as bad, to be totally honest with you. But this is where, during the course of the next 10, 15 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about some of the top voice topics over the last 24, 48 hours. I'll introduce myself in a few moments' time. But first of all, here's Suze Cooper. Hi, Suze. How are you? Introduce yourself.
Good evening. Hi there. Yeah, I'm Suze Cooper. I am a broadcaster and a flash briefing creator. And it's really great to be here on VoiceWorks tonight and to be working with you on this exciting project, Peter. Hopefully we'll be able to educate some people about voice technology. It's so fast moving that I'm fairly sure we'll have things to come on and talk about pretty much every day. But yeah, it's a really great project to be part of.
It certainly is. Thank you for joining us as well. If you're watching, don't forget you can leave the comments in the usual way underneath. And if you want to come in and speak to us live in the program, then you can do that as well. Now, it's not going to be every single night we do this, but it's going to be kind of more nights than not. But give us the weekends off. But during the course of the week, hopefully we'll be here pretty regularly over the next week. So, Suze, first of all, if people haven't come across you, what do you do? How do we get in touch with each other? And what's your expertise in the arena of voice?
Yes, so me and Peter met on Twitter, of all places, not Facebook, but Twitter. And that is because there is a very engaged community in the voice tech world at the moment over on Twitter. And so we were chatting with a lot of the same people and came across each other and realized that we actually had quite a lot in common because we both have a radio broadcasting background. So I work for a local radio station here in Kent, reading the news each weekend, and I have worked for them for about 12 years. And I also have a lot of audio production experience and have recently come across building flash briefings, which are a certain type of Alexa skill, which you can listen to on your Echo or your Dot device. And I have become completely engrossed really in trying to educate other people about how they can also use flash briefings. They're a great little skill that you can create to get your voice out there, to perhaps market your business. Lots of different ways that they can be used. And so me and Peter have kind of come together to chat about creating those briefings and also to try and find a way that we can help others to create them too.
Absolutely. Well, Suze will be back in a few moments' time to tell us about the topics that we're going to be discussing this evening, as I say, over the next 10, 15 minutes or so. A little bit about me. I work for a well-known British broadcasting company. I'm not allowed to tell you which one, but, well, it's big, it's British, and it's a company. And for the last 25 years or so, I've been, actually, to be honest, it's nearer 30. I'll be totally honest with you. I've been doing lots of radio and some TV training of presentation and production behind the scenes, on camera, on mic, and more recently moved into the online space. So creating some videos. But my background really is in audio, is in radio and production and presentation. I've written several books about that. So when the whole new voice platform came along, I thought this is certainly an area that I'd like to get involved with and to know a little bit more about. So caught up with Suze and we kept bumping into each other at various meetings and conferences and workshops and so on. So we thought, hold on, we've got a similar background. We live in a similar area. We're interested in similar things. Let's see if we can't kind of work together to spread some of our knowledge around the place to other people as well. So that is Suze and I. And Suze, we're going to be talking about a couple of stories tonight which have caught our eye. Do you want to introduce the first one for us?
Yeah, sure. So basically there's a white paper basically that's come out from BBC Research and Development, and it's top tips from UK voice producers. Now, I've 13 pages of absolute gold as far as I'm concerned for anybody that is thinking of creating for the voice space. So this was put together as it actually came out of a workshop that was held between British voice producers, and this is kind of the golden nuggets of how to create a voice experience that came out of that workshop, all put together in a 13-page document. And as I say, there are some really interesting points in here. Anybody that's thinking of starting out and creating something for Alexa or Google Assistant should most definitely take a look at this, and I'm sure we'll be sending out the link after the broadcast as well.
Absolutely. So all sorts of design tips after 3 years of working in this space. The BBC pulled some people together, locked them up in a room, probably threw some donuts and coffee at them and that kind of thing. And they've curated all of these, frankly, golden nuggets of guidelines. And of course, the BBC's had a certain amount of success in the recent past, Suze, haven't they? I mean, I'm thinking particularly of BBC's Skill for Kids. Now, there are various brands within the BBC, but as far as children goes, which is one of the cornerstones of the BBC, and I should say, actually, despite what I said a little bit earlier on, full disclosure, I do work for the BBC. It's funny, isn't it? I can't say I work for the BBC, but on some occasions I have to say I work for the BBC, and this is one of those occasions. And so the CBeebies skill is for the for younger, almost kind of toddlers, up to the age of 6 or 7, something like that.
Yeah, I think
won an award recently.
I think they built it for kind of 3 to 8 year olds, I think is kind of the range of it. And it uses some of the really well-known characters from the CBeebies shows, different games, real good way, really. And a real good way of getting children involved in this voice technology and getting them to use Alexa. And they won a Webby. So that was only actually a few weeks ago. So Webbies are quite hot property in the tech world. And for the BBC to have picked this one up so early on for the CBeebies skill is really quite a coup.
So let's break down some of the areas, some of the chapters that they gave these golden nuggets in. Well, first of all, I suppose is inevitable, walking the way through from the idea through to completion, and starting off with goals. And what jumped out at me was it's easier to design first, whether it's on a big sheet of paper or a whiteboard or something like that. Design first and think of all the possible interactions that you could possibly have. And then test those. So have some kind of a storyboard, and also perhaps go through some role playing as well. And when you're doing the role playing, obviously stick to the script that you reckon that the voice assistant will use, and have somebody who's testing it that doesn't know anything about the skill that you are proposing, because otherwise, obviously, they will be tempted either consciously or subconsciously to say what you want them to say. So they've got to be someone completely different from your design team at this stage, so completely new users. And also consider the surroundings that they're going to be using the skill in when it actually goes live. For example, if it's something designed for like busy mums or people in a factory or something, bear that in mind. People aren't going to have much time. The instructions, the questions have got to be really clear, really straightforward, and also be aware as another thing that people may not be using this skill by themselves. They may actually be having perhaps other people around them chipping in or giving suggestions or ideas, interrupting them, all sorts of things. So that kind of goes through the goals and the testing process. Suze, what did you pick up from some of the early pages in this report?
I just think that it is so important, as you've just said there, to get someone who doesn't really know the skill inside out to test it, because that is where this natural language processing is really going to get better, is going to improve. So, it has to be about those simpler interactions and about that kind of conversational flow that, to be fair, humans, we just do this subconsciously. This is just how we communicate. And what we need to do is try and get this tech to a level where it is literally as seamless as that. So we're asking the question that we would ask because we know what we're looking for. We know what response we need to get from it. But this tech doesn't necessarily know that. So it's really important that, we're interacting with these things using a very natural human approach to it, rather than trying to twist the tech almost into doing what it can, or kind of at its limits. Eventually this stuff needs to be seamless, so we need to be using the kind of language that we would use every day. And in radio, as we both know, generally, you're told to write the story in the way that you tell it to the guy down the pub, right? So this is not about the absolute infinite detail that you need to give. They're saying don't load things with instructions, only give information when it's necessary. So if within a voice skill you hit an error, then your user is going to need some information at that point. But if they don't need that information, don't give it to them. So it's about only giving the information that's necessary at the point within the skill that they're in, really.
Absolutely. And some of the other points that jumped out at me, make sure that you've got a clear call to action and vocabulary for participation. And Suze, I know it's one of your great examples that you've quoted before about making sure that there are only a certain number of questions at any one time. Don't confuse people with a series of different questions, and open-ended questions as well, kind of questions which aren't questions, perhaps rhetorical questions, can also be a problem. Certainly for adults, but Suze, also for kids as well. There's that kind of famous CBeebies example, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, we were both at a Women in Voice event not so long ago, actually the day that the CBeebies team won the Webby Award. And they were explaining how through their testing, they realised that children will actually answer the question as soon as it's asked. So if you were to ask within their skill, who would you like to play with today? Waffle Doggy or Bing? The child will already have answered at the end of who would you like to play with today, and yet actually the speaker is going to be waiting for the answer at the end of Waffle Doggy or Bing. So you have to kind of front load the question and say Waffle Doggy and Bing are here to play with you today. Which would you like to play with? And so you've given them the information and then you ask them the question, so that the answer then comes naturally at that point at the end. The scripting tips within this document are great. End sentences with a clear question, which is exactly what we've just spoken about there, but also not giving people more than 3 options. Generally, people can't keep too many things in their head at once. So, this voice experience, if we're talking about a very pure voice experience where, there is no screen, then you don't want to be giving people so much information that they've got to hold in their head before they then have to make the decision and then vocalize that. So it is about, as I've just said, giving information when it's needed, not giving too much information at one point, and making sure that your sentences end with the question so that that voice flow can continue, really.
Also, some tips in there as well about how to stop Alexi triggering herself, which I thought was quite interesting. In fact, I thought it was very interesting. I haven't heard those kind of tips anywhere before. Also about leaving, I suppose, you would do this anyway, I would have thought, but leaving recording of the actors and putting in the sound effects and doing that final mix right to the very end. Obviously, it's quite a temptation. It's probably much more fun to get into a recording studio and have people there and kind of mix all the sound effects to help tell the story, rather than maybe sit in front of a computer screen and do that kind of coding and techie work. But leave all that to the very, very end, because otherwise you may find yourself recording stuff which subsequently isn't necessary, or you need to go back, you need to change a few things and that kind of thing. Here we go about mixing and mastering, and also talking about the loudness levels. As you can see, this is a huge amount of research that they've put together with these various other organizations and businesses as well, which has been really, really valuable, all about mixing and mastering. So it really is from the beginning all the way through to the end of this whole process of voice production, whether it's mainly skills and we both got perhaps a little bit more experience in the Amazon area, but I'm sure that all this will be appropriate for whether you're building skills or whether you're building actions, or whether it is something else, maybe another platform that you're building for, because a lot of these are quite kind of straightforward. They're quite obvious, but the thing with tips which are obvious is that sometimes you forget about them. So you need to have them written down. It's also a great set of guidance and guidelines that you can perhaps show to a new member, or you can use as the basis for your own kind of brand guidelines or what you need to be doing as your own business and your own group going forward. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really super document for anybody that's starting out. And yes, there's kind of technical audio production stuff along the way, but it's not inaccessible in any way. It is very much, you can kind of follow it through. And I think anybody that's thinking about making a skill or a flash briefing, anything like that, it's certainly something that click the link, have a look. It's great.
Okay, so that's our first topic that we're talking about this evening. If you do want to comment, then you can leave comments in the usual way, and we'll be able to read them out, and we'll mention you on the program. And if this is your obviously it's the first time of watching because it's our very first show, then if you'd like a notification of when we go live in the future, then make sure that you click the appropriate Facebook button at the top of the page, and then you'll get a notification another time we go live. We plan to be doing this, as I said a little bit earlier on, kind of most days, most weekdays. Don't hold us to everything. You know, we've all got lives to live, and obviously sometimes there are the odd emergencies as well that we've got to get involved with, plus putting kids to bed and shopping, cooking, cleaning, ironing, and sometimes I'll even take a shower as well. And you know what? I could even get round to shaving. It all takes time, but we hope to be here most days of the week, either together or flying solo. And we'll usually discuss one or two hot topics of the moment. And as I say, appreciate your comments. Either you can join us on the screen, or you can come in and you can talk to us generally about what you think, what you consider to be the hot topic of the moment as well, and join in the discussion. So, Suze, another topic that we're talking about today.
Yeah, so there is an article that's been written on voicebot.ai by Brett Kinsella about Siri. So lots of people don't kind of think of Siri as one of these kind of voice tech giants in a way, but it is Apple's, voice first kind of voice. So Siri basically up until now has kind of got a bit of bad press really for being not quite so up to speed as Alexa and as Amazon and Google, but they have now released, according to this article here today, they've released some new domains. Now, what this means is that Siri is going to be able to be used in a few more different ways than it has been already. So at the moment, you can only create something for Siri in one of 10 areas: audio, video calling, CarPlay, fitness, lists, messaging, payments, photo management, ride booking, vehicle information, and visual codes. Now, that might sound like quite a lot, but when you think about what you can do with Alexa and with the Google Assistant, it's actually quite limiting that you've only got those 10 areas that you can create something into. So what they've now done, or what the rumor is, that they're going to actually expand those areas where Siri can be built for into the kind of places like buying tickets, like if you're going on a train journey or perhaps for an event, a concert, something like that. There may well be media playback, which I think would be massive, because obviously an awful lot of people I speak to say, I'll ask them, well, have you got an Alexa? Oh yeah, I listen to Spotify through it all the time. So music playback is just a massive one. So I think if that really is true, then that is certainly going to help them. And you'd think that they would jump on that, really. Having brought out the AirPods, you've obviously got Siri through your AirPods. It kind of seems like a no-brainer. The other one is search, which obviously, you think kind of Google's all over that. And if Siri need to kind of make any headway in this at all, then I think music and search is really where they're going to have to drive themselves forward. I kind of can't understand why Apple wouldn't have jumped on the music thing before. Hey, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, of course, what you have to do is you can build personal skills and general skills for the Amazon platform. But when it comes to Siri, you can only build apps. Getting a lot, you've got to concentrate, haven't you? Well, there's skills and there are actions and there are apps and they're all slightly different. And some of them you can write yourself and some of them you can't. And within a skill, there are separate, different kinds of skills. Like flash briefing is a kind of a skill, but there are different kind of flash briefings as well, either text to speech or recording your own. It's all getting a little bit complicated. And we'll come to a way we can help you with that, because Sue's got a little something that she's going to mention before the end of the show as well, if you're in and around the London area. But this is one of the ways that you can perhaps sell or you can adapt an app for the iOS system with voice integration, with Siri integration. And then, of course, you can sell it and make a little bit of money through that, maybe as an upgrade or maybe start off as a completely new app. So, Siri is behind the times quite a bit. It's been around for several years now. Goodness knows, Lexi has been out for 3 years, more than 3 years, and Siri has got an awful lot of catching up to do. I really think that she's been caught napping, to be totally honest with you. But maybe at the big Apple developer event, which is going to be happening in the not too distant future, they're going to possibly announce some really big changes. We hope to hear about those. And of course, voicebot.ai, and Brett Kinsella over there is one of the people who really has his finger on the pulse. So as soon as he knows either something which has been confirmed, or with his nose to or his ear to the ground, he will be, and his nose to the grindstone as well, I've no doubt. All sorts of metaphors. He will be telling you what sorts of things is going on. And of course, we'll be able to discuss it here on our Voice Works platform of a regular evening. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you for the loan of your eyes and your ears for the last 15 minutes or so. And Suze, I mentioned a few moments ago that there's an event happening in London for people that perhaps a little bit confused about all of the different kind of terminology and what they can do in the voice space. And they've heard it's something they need to get involved with, but they aren't quite sure why or how. What should they be doing?
Yeah, I'll be speaking at Bluewater Shopping Centre. It's actually at John Lewis in Bluewater on Wednesday evening between 6 and 8 o'clock about flash briefings, and also speaking a little bit about how you can create audiograms from audio clips to promote your flash briefing if you're on social media. So it's a free event. It's a digital women event. The idea being women supporting women in digital. So if that's you, then you're more than welcome to come along. There's lots of goodies on offer. I believe there's kind of personal shopper about, possibly a makeup consultant before we start, and also other talks that are going on as well, different skills workshops, just a few hours, and great to meet other women that are working in digital and in that space at the moment. And yeah, I'll be running through the basics of what a flash briefing is, why you might want to have one, and how you can put one together. So yeah, if you're interested in that, I'll post the link on the page shortly.
Okay, and also there is another event that we should be telling you about as well, and that happens on the 16th of July, and it's at Amazon HQ in London, not far from Liverpool Street Station, where Suze and I will be speaking and putting on an evening presentation of a couple of hours about, an introduction, a beginner's guide to voice. So if you're a little bit befuddled and bamboozled about some of the terms that we're talking about, if you don't know your Alexa from your Siri, from your Bixby, if you're worried about what SEO is and who the heck is Jason, then make sure that you come across. And again, we'll make sure that we put those links into our show notes as well, so you'll know exactly where to go. You can book up for that event, and that's certainly free. And then what we'll do is, during the course of our evening programs, we'll be talking about similar events which are happening maybe where we're going to in London or in the southeast of England, maybe ones that we're speaking about, or perhaps some of the bigger events which are happening elsewhere around the world as well. So you'll be able to get a regular update of what is happening in the world of voice, in this emerging space, in this emerging platform of voice. So, Suze, anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, I think that's all for our first broadcast, Peter. I think it's been a good first time out, and here's to more.
Absolutely. So if you'd like to get in touch with me, I'm Tweeter Stewart on Twitter. So I regularly post various articles that I come across there. And also I've got 3 flash briefing skills, one of which is the second most highly rated in the whole of the UK. And also don't forget my 28-day flash briefing. It's a flash briefing about how to do a flash briefing. It's terribly meta. And also my smart speakers daily flash briefing, which kind of encapsulates some of the bare bones, the best bits of the best blogs, all about the world of voice. And Suze, how can people get in touch with you?
Yep, so I'm on Twitter at Big Tent Social, and I have 2 flash briefings. The one that you'll probably want to hear about is Social Days, and you can find that either in the Alexa Skills Store or by asking Alexa to enable Social Days.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much indeed for watching. Don't forget to follow us, like the page, and then you'll get a notification the next time we go live on our Voice Works channel. Thanks so much indeed for watching. We'll be back soon. Don't forget to leave a comment as well and tell other people who you think may be interested in keeping abreast of what's happening in the voice world. Thanks so much indeed. Good night.